Well, hi 11th grade students. Long time no see, and I wish I wasn't looking at some weird camera on the top of my screen. You guys are much more fun to look at, and so hopefully we can figure out a way to do a live stream at some point later this week. Maybe it would be fun, but in the meantime we have this, and so we are going to talk a little bit about the British Empire. Yes, the British Empire. Got my flag here. Woohoo! There it is. I'm at my home, by the way. Some people thought that this was my school office, but I guess the bookcases look similar. They are actually the same, but I'm here at home. It's all quiet, and the kids are gone. They went off camping to Leavenworth. Hopefully they'll get stuck there because the governor will say you can't go anywhere. Just kidding. Hopefully we'll see them again. But anyway, so it's nice and quiet here at home. And so I just wanted to go over this with you real quick and talk a little bit about the British Empire. And you've got a fun assignment that I'm giving you for this week. And so I'll get into that in a little bit. But anyway, I thought I'd just show you. I think I can click on this. This is my PowerPoint here. These are some cool medals. I don't know if you can see this on the camera as well. But these medals actually were my great uncle, who was a soldier in World War One. He was in the Surrey Rifle Brigade. Surrey is a county just outside of London. And anyway, he got some medals for fighting in the war, and you can see them right here. And the reason I wanted to show them to you is because even the medals themselves depict a little bit about what people thought the war was about. And how does that relate to the British Empire? Well, the British at the early part of the 20th century, which was really just kind of starting to come down from the kind of the height of the empire in the late 1800s, but they still saw themselves as the kind of the arbiter of peace and justice and order around the world. And as you can see, even just looking at this medal, you have this angel here that is kind of an idea, and then on the other side you've got the Great War for Civilization. And I think the British and their empire really thought that what they were doing was, creating this kind of sense of global order, world order and civilization, and that they in a sense would be kind of like an angel that would kind of oversee and watch over such a great institution. And another medal that I have is also from the 1914-18 First World War, and you can see this very triumphant looking horse here, and you can see underneath the horse's hoof, right around here, you can see it is trampling down what is the German eagle on this shield, and the skull and crossbones and what have you, is being trampled on and so on by, of course, this very victorious looking man that probably would represent, somebody in the British Empire or something like that. There's the eagle, the double-headed eagle that represents the German nation. So anyway, just a couple of things there that I thought you might be interested in seeing from my past. I want to show you this map. So this kind of gives you an idea. I don't know why it's all the way over there, but that's okay. This map gives you a bit of an idea as just the scale of the British Empire. What you see in red here is part of the British Empire. So large portions of Africa, all across southern Asia, Australia. Of course, it says here British America. That was, of course, before the rebellion of 1776. Canada, and even some portions of South America. This was the largest empire we have seen in all of world history. Larger than the Roman Empire, larger than any empire that we have seen. And in fact, if you go to many of these countries today, you'll still see some semblance of British life, British culture, more so in other places like Australia and Canada, New Zealand, obviously. less so in places like Africa and India. But even those places, though, there is a measure of similarity, particularly with their education systems, their parliamentary democracies. All seem to be somewhat similar to the British system. And that kind of plays a little bit into the question that we've been trying to answer, and that is, was the British Empire all bad? Certainly when you look at the contrast between the French Empire, you go to parts of West Africa, North Africa here, Laos, Vietnam, Cambodia, in Southeast Asia there. To be honest and frank with you, where there has been any resemblance of the French empires, it usually has resulted in chaos. Not surprising, since the French political system itself was born out of chaos. And there's a big difference between those countries that were part of the French Empire and the countries that were part of the British Empire. So just something to take into consideration. But this cartoon here, or two little cartoon pictures here, kind of depict what different people think of the British Empire. On the left-hand side, you've got this very beautiful and virtuous Britannia, who's very genteel and yet is a woman of strength, maybe moral uprightness. But there's another view as well, and that is of a cruel tyrant who is bringing death and destruction to the places where Britain has ruled. So that's one of the things that we're going to be kind of looking at. If you were a foreign diplomat from around the world that was part of the British Empire in the late 1800s, and maybe you needed to come back to London to meet with members of the British government and meet in the British Foreign Office, the British government made sure that they made you feel like when you arrived in London that you were arriving at the epicenter of power. And so the British Foreign and Commonwealth Office built this spectacular building, which is the British Foreign Office. It's the center of government. It's like the United States State Department, where we manage all of our embassies and dignitaries and what have you from all over the world. But this is where the Brits do it, right in the center of London. And it is a pretty spectacular place. Unfortunately, it's close to the public, otherwise I'd have us go there, but it would be nice, but unfortunately we're not able to. And your assignment this week, and I'll get into this a little bit later on, there's a fabulous 360 kind of virtual tour that you can take of the Foreign Office, where you can kind of go all through the rooms and check everything out. It's really cool. And what I'm going to be doing is highlighting especially some of the art pieces that really depict this idea of the imperial nature of British power. So we'll take a look at that in a minute, but just take a look at some of the other pictures that I have. Here's the grand staircase going up. And there's all kinds of imagery, by the way, these paintings that depict the kind of the religious beliefs of British statesmen and how they saw themselves really as almost like a new Israel, that we are the promised land, that we are the chosen ones who are to set the example for the rest of the world and bring peace and justice and order because of our Christianity and export that to the rest of the world. All of which that is fine, providing, of course, that you're not using that as a means really to project your own power and rob people of their own identity and their own ability to rule themselves. At the center of this, in fact, if I just go back one picture, going to go to this painting right here. It seems rather small, but when we actually get upstairs and turn the corner here, this fresco is very large. It's probably about 25 feet wide and about 15 feet high, something like that. And what we have here is we have Britannia in the center, the Roman mythological lady figure whom the Britons have attributed to their own sense of national identity. But we have Britannia shaking hands with this interesting character right here. Before I say who it is, I want you to try and guess who it is. I know it's rather hard, but if you look here at the red and white stripes on the sleeve, the red and white stripes on the tunic, the blue here with the stars, this character right here is obviously in alignment with the French. You see the French flag right here. Okay, this character is the United States of America. And this painting, I believe, was commissioned right after World War I. You can see right here all the weapons of war being laid down. There is a sense that Britain and America are finally in league together. And in fact, if you look at this description at the top here, it says, "To the motherland." Well, that would definitely be the United States looking back to Britain as their mother. To the motherland, they offer aid and counsel, friends allied acclaim the righteous peace. So this idea that we are now bound together in unity for the sake of world order, in after having experienced some horrific experience in World War One. And these other dudes right here, these represent the New Zealand, you can see their flags, the New Zealanders and the Australians. Not sure why they are prancing around there with hardly any clothes on, but anyway. You see these countries here that would be more affiliated with the French Empire because they're from Asia. You've got the Turks over here from the Middle East, who very much aligned with Britain during World War I, which is a whole nother story. And then you've got these rather interesting looking children that are just kind of clamoring for attention onto Britannia. These are the countries of Northern Europe, Belgium, Holland, Luxembourg. They were very weak countries, very small countries. They were considered to be kind of childlike, and they are painted here in this picture in a very kind of what's the best way to describe it, vulnerable way. And there's this sense that the maternal nature here of Britain is looking out and providing protection and care and nurture and all that kind of stuff for for these young countries. So all is good. 1919, the war is over, everybody's looking for peace, and Britain is at the center of world affairs, and no wonder they want this massive painting on display at the British Foreign Office as different dignitaries from all around the world come to meet with the British government, and they are met with this painting that really kind of depicts that we, along with the United States of America, are at the center of everything that is happening. In fact, look at this title right here, Britannia Pacifictrix. In other words, the idea of the peace of Britannia. Should ring a bell. Remember the Pax Romana, the peace of Rome. In essence, the United States of America and the British together are providing the peace of the world. Well, nice idea. Didn't last for too long, but anyway. Rudyard Kipling, an interesting character. You're all very familiar with him and the Jungle Book, but he wrote a whole series of poems about the nature of the British and at the height of their empire, and that the British had to somewhat take up what he referred to as the white man's burden. And the white man's burden was really to, supposedly help the rest of the pagan dark world, particularly those in places that were uncivilized like Africa, and bring them into the light of civilization and all that. And I'm not going to get into the whole poem right now, so I don't have time, but you can certainly read that on your own later. But take a look at this cartoon, and again, this depicts the British kind of old stodgy man by this time, and Uncle Sam, a little bit leaner, but interestingly also characterized as being a little old. But look at the idea that is in this cartoon, that the British and the Americans are leading these kind of uncouth, uncivilized, unreached peoples. You can see you've got, you know, African people, you've got Asian people, Turkish people, people from South Asia and so on. And it's their responsibility to lead them through all of these obstacles of oppression and ignorance and vice and superstition and slavery and all this kind of stuff towards the noble goal of civilization. Okay, and that's how the Brits and not so much the Americans, but certainly the Brits felt towards the end of the 1800s, that it was their moral responsibility to lift these countries up towards civilization. Much of it was great. We see a huge kind of effort towards Christian missionary activity that took place that was kind of based on these kind of ideas. But it also smacks a lot of a sense of kind of cultural arrogance and pride that was not helpful at all, which is one of the reasons why people really ended up disdaining the idea of British imperialism. You know, take a look at this, you know, really somewhat inappropriate ad here for soap. Check this out. It says this is an advertisement that appeared. I can't remember what magazine it was, but look at this. The first step towards lightening the white man's burden is through teaching the virtues of cleanliness. Not a bad idea in this day and age as we're dealing with COVID. But look at this. Pears soap is a potent factor in brightening the dark corners of the earth as civilization advances, while amongst the cultured of all the nations it holds the highest place. It is the ideal toilet soap. And you can see this kind of white man here, you know, kind of reaching out to give this poor little wretch of a black man this bar of soap. You know, so very, very patronizing, you know, very self-elevating in terms of what the British thought of themselves in the late 1800s. And in a sense that this was the burden that they had to carry, and the faster that they could kind of clean up the rest of the world, then the less of a burden it would be to them. This really goes into what we were talking about, I think, last week when you guys were recognizing some of the ideological reasons behind this kind of thing. And Charles Darwin really at the center of all of this. The idea that certain nations or civilizations have attained a greater level of advancement. Their natural selection process shows that, you know, white Anglo-Saxons are better than Indians or what have you. And this is the fundamental problem with Darwin's natural selection thesis, in that it creates this sense of racist ideology. It's not just a philosophy that is applied to biology, but it's a philosophy that's applied to sociology in a very negative way. So anyway, I just wanted to show you those kind of things. I think they're kind of interesting as we kind of look to evaluate some of the good things and some of the negative things that come from the British Empire. So I encourage you, as you can see in the assignment, you'll be able to go to, in fact I'll just pull it up right now, you'll be able to go to the, wrong thing, let me see here, okay, where is our team? Our team is 11th grade. Here we go, assignments. You'll be able to pull up the Foreign Office. It's taking time to load here, but if you go to the Foreign Office 360 website, you'll be able to go all around the building. And what I'm asking for is for you to pick out a piece of art that you particularly find interesting, and here we go, and be able to explain what it is the painter is trying to depict about how the British see themselves at the height of empire. So first of all, since you need to be able to describe the art piece, tell us a little bit about the painter and description of the painting itself, and then B, explain what the painter sought to convey about how the British thought of themselves during the height of the empire. Any art piece will do. Just find something that you find interesting, and you can write a little bit about that, and that'll be it. All right, have a great time. I'll hope to see you soon live. Thanks. Bye.